It's been a very, very challenging day today here at Larford Lakes with the conditions we've had today, rain and wind, but we got the video done and I know you'll absolutely love it when you watch it very, very shortly. But in front of me, I've got the Net XL. Now, this is part of Superior X luggage. There's lots and lots of different items, and all you need to do if you want to win this beautiful net bag is like and subscribe to the Preston YouTube channel, but most importantly, comment below Superior X luggage. That's all you've got to do, and then this little beauty could be on the way to you. Enjoy the film. Unfortunately for me, I've come out on not one of the greatest days. It is blowing a hoolie and we've even got some drizzle in the air, and so it's not going to be easy to film, and it's certainly not going to be easy to fish in. Now, as we all know, as fishermen, whether you're pleasure fishing or a match angler like myself, you have to fish in these conditions. Now, the long pole is out today. It's going to be too windy. It's actually going to get worse as the day goes on. But like I said, these are the conditions that you've got to fish in. Now, I'm going to be fishing for silvers mostly today. I've only got 2 baits out. I've got 3 baits. I've got maggots, pellets, and I've also got some corn. And I'm sure we're going to catch. The first thing I've done after plumbing up is take the plummet off, mark it up, and then drop my rig in. I was hoping for the actual toe of the lake to what we call backing up. Now, what I mean by that is, as you can probably see from the camera, the wind is blowing from left to right, and what I was hoping was the toe was going to be going opposite. So I thought the toe might be going from right to left. Now that could change as the day goes on, but at the moment it's actually going the same way. Now that makes fishing really, really tricky. I mean, that's the sort of thing that why we bring the cameras out. It's not all about sitting in, you know, sunny, nice and still conditions. You still have to fish in conditions like this. Now, one of the floats I have made up, even though I'm only probably fishing in probably 5.5 foot deep, maybe 6 foot, is that sort of float there. Now, doesn't come out very often on a commercial, because we are on a commercial today. It's a 1 gram power, but you've got to have these sort of floats in your armory, because days like today, they do play a part. I've also set up a lighter float as well, because I'm going to be trying to catch on maggots and pellets. I'm sure we're gonna have a great day's fishing. You're gonna pick up lots and lots of tips, you know, not just catching fish, but fishing in tricky conditions like this. I'm itching to get going, and I'll talk you through everything as we go along. Before I get going, let's talk about the bait that I've got. Now, it's nice and simple. I've got some maggots there, I've got some whites and reds. Always take a few whites with you, because the water's still coloured today. You know, the water's still warm. We're not in winter mode or anything like that. Always take a few whites. I always get some red maggots from the local shop, and I always tell them to put sort of a quarter, you know, in 2 pints of reds. I'll get them to put like 1/4 of a pint or 1/2 a pint of whites in, because white maggots on the day, especially in coloured water, can be really, really good. The pellets I've got out, nice and simple. I've just got some 4mm hard pellets there. I've not done any expanders up, because I think the fishing is going to be really good. And in these conditions, fishing soft pellet can be very, very tricky. So I'm trying to sort of edge my bets really about like sitting there, getting a bite. I don't have to be in and out all the time, because when it's windy, expander fishing can be really, like I said, really hard to do. So I've just got some 4mm hard pellets out. and I've also done some 2 mils. Now, what I'll probably do on my pellet line, and maybe even my maggot line, is introduce micros at the start, but I might not use them again. It just depends on how the fishing goes. You know, I've got a couple of big cad pot. I've got one decent sized cad pot, medium, and one small. And then I'll go between, like, you know, what's best, obviously potting in pellets or my maggot line. Now, talking about the lines that I'm fishing, I've also got a tin of corn as well, bit of F1 corn, one of my favourite corns. It's got them little bits in it, and I'll probably introduce that on the pellet line rather than the maggot line, but who knows, sometimes you just put a bit of corn on it, can be great, other times I don't want to know it. Now, where I'm actually fishing a top kit and free, but with a short free, because I found a nice little flat spot. It sort of just comes up the shelf a little bit, but then I'm fishing down my peg. Now, I'm decided to fish maggots in front of me, and I've also fished pellets down the peg a bit, so I've got 2 lines going just to see what's best on the day. I might have to start on, you know, pellets, might get some pellet fish later early, who knows. That's why when I go fishing for whatever I'm fishing, you have to have sort of different areas covered of your peg, especially on conditions like this. Now, why I've gone down my peg to my right is because the toe's going that way. If the toe would have been backing up, I probably would have gone up to my left, because what I don't want to do is have the float, say your pole tip's there and you fished that way and the toe's going the opposite way, your float will come under your pole on the inside like that. Honestly, it makes a massive difference. It's absolute no-no as far as I'm concerned. So I would have fished it to my left, where I can let it trundle off the end of the pole tip. It's things that I've learned over many, many years, and that's what these films are all about. So rig-wise, nice and simple. My maggot line at the moment is a 1 gram power. I've actually stuck with 11 Jura because I don't want to go too light. We're not in winter mode yet. You know, we might get an odd carp, we might catch an odd F1. I'm not bothered about that. I'm fishing with still sensible hooks and sensible lines. So 11 Jura. I have got 9 Jura with me just in case it's a bit overpowered, but I thought I'd start with 11 because I am looking to catch sort of better quality fish, and like I said, we aren't in the winter mode yet. I've got a 1 gram power. Now that's tied to 0.15 power line. These are the sort of rigs that I carry in my van because on conditions like this, like I said in the intro, they do come into play sometimes. I've got a simple bulk of number 8s on there, and then the same sort of shot. At the moment, I've just got 1 number 8 dropper because it's a positive rig. You know, it's not my sort of rig that I use on winter fishing silverfish. This is about getting your rig to the bottom and trying to catch the quality fish, and I think that's what I'm going to need to do. And then I've got a pre-tied 6-inch hook length with 0.11 reflow power to a 16 SFL, so it's barbless because we are on a commercial. Now my pellet line, or my pellet rig, is slightly different because I'm fishing with hard pellet. I can afford to sort of let it run down through the water a little bit lighter, a little bit more finesse. It's just something that I thought I'd do. It's not that much difference. It's a 4B16 F1 maggot, so it's still quite positive. 11 Jura again, same main line, 0.15, a simple bulk of number 9s, and then 2 number 9 droppers. So if it's a bit more airy-fairy, obviously I can move these shot about and bring them down towards the hook a bit tighter if I want. It's just, you know, it depends on how the fishing goes. And I've got the same sort of hook length. I've got a 16 GPM eyed. Now that's on a 6-inch hook length of 0.11 again. So I've got a band on there. Like I said, if the conditions were better, I probably would have set up a soft pellet rig as well. But with these conditions, with the toe going the same way, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get the presentation. So I'm going to stick with our. But obviously, I can change as the day goes on. But that's what I don't think we will. I think the fishing is going to be good. And like I said, that's the 2 rigs. I'm itching to get going. I've got my big pot made up. So what I'm going to do first off, on my pellet line, I'm actually going to get a ball of micros like that. Not too big, I'm not going to overdo it. The size of a golf ball. So it doesn't, because it goes down to the bottom. And I'm going to put a few, like 20 4mm dry pellets in. Let's get it out there. And then on my maggot line, I'm going to put a ball of micros again and probably like 100 maggots, and then just start fishing. Just going to pop that little ball in with those 4mm, like that, straight down. Now it's one section off, for me maggot line. With the short free still on, and trying to keep it like, keep it to the short. I don't want to put a long free on because it gets complicated. Now I'm going to put another little ball of micros in, not so big this time because I'm going to start on this line. A little ball of micros, size is like, you know, a bit bigger than 50p piece. And I'm going to put sort of 100 maggots in. And I'm fishing this out in front of me. Got myself lined up with that little bit of mud on the far bank. Just get that in. As I said, and I can just throw a few 4mm over the top. Got to go careful because it's windy. Everything, get everything, you know, your roller right. Make sure your sections ain't going to go flying in the lake and things like that. And I'm going to start on red and white maggot. It might take a little while to get going, but you never know with this sort of fishing. And I said I'm starting on a gram power because that's on my maggot line. I'm just going to drop that straight down. It's just a pity about that toe today, because if that was backing up, it'd be so much better. If you see from the float, if I let that go, it just starts trundling through with the wind, which is a really, really awkward presentation. If that was going backing up, so that float was coming back under the pole, it is so nice. So you can like lift your pole tip out of the water, and you can use the line as a sail just to sort of slow it down and let it inch through your peg. I can't do that today. So I'm actually going to put the pole tip under the water slightly. Now obviously the things that I'm thinking about, especially on this maggot line, is throwing. Do I throw or do I pot? I'm going to see what happens at the moment. I would like to pot because I want to catch quality. What I don't want to do is get a load of little fish in my peg. But obviously it depends on how difficult it is. I'd like to pot like an amount of bait in and just fish it out and try and catch like the bigger skimmers and maybe the bigger roach and hybrids. You can see that even on a top kitten too is quite difficult to hold. Oh, there's a little indication then. So I'm just going to put that down. Just start throwing a few 4s on that line. There's one thing you've got to be aware of though, especially this time of year when you are fishing for what I would say sort of everything. You can actually feed quite a lot of bait, but I'm not going to do that straight away. And I've plumbed up at the moment with the conditions and with the toe going the same way. I've plumbed up a little bit more than what I normally do. So the body of the float is probably 2 inches out of the water rather than an inch. Now I might have to put more on with the conditions, but let's just get fishing first. Don't, you know, I'm not thinking about that too much at the moment. I just want to try and get some bites and get catching and get some bites in the, you know, there we go, there's a bite then. So just try and drop that bulk slightly above where you potted in, like that, and then I can just let that work over the baited area. That's what we're after. It's just started to rain quite heavy, but we have started catching. Now I've actually been going 25 minutes and I've had a couple of nice skimmers. Just started catching them now. Now I haven't thrown anything. There's a few little roach about, which is like what I said at the start. I want to avoid those. I want to get down to the bottom. I'll just run you through what I've learned already. Is I've got to make sure, because of that toe going with the wind, is I drop that. That's the nice thing about fishing a gram rig. I can get down, but I'm trying to make sure I'm bang sort of square on with the float like that. So I've not got my pole facing up or down. I'm square on with it, holding it still. I've actually fed again. I've fed a big handful of maggots. There's a little fish bite then. So drop that bulk in, let it go down. You've got your marker opposite. But I'm trying to fish that pole as straight as I can because it is trying to push through quite hard. There we go. Oh, hello. So that was straight down. It's really, this is where you learn a lot about fishing. It's like when you fish a river, unless you get that presentation right. I know it's a little bit different on the lake. I don't know what that is. That's on a red and white maggot. We have a little stocky again, I think. That's why I'm obviously fishing with 11 Jura. Because obviously it is a commercial. We're going to be catching an odd sort of better stamp. I don't mind catching these in between, but I've had some nice skimmers as well, some nice perch. And like I said, we've only been going like 25 minutes. Even with that 011 and a 16 SFL, you can be quite, you know, it's strong enough to cope with these fish, no problem at all. I've got some absolute massive fish out. Oh yeah, look at that, one of Phil's new stockies. Lovely to catch them fish on maggots and a nice positive rig. Look at that, absolutely mint condition. So make sure you clean all your gunge off your line. White on first, red on second. I've always done it like that. I've tried it the other way around. It don't never seem to go under as much. So like I said, so drop the bulk off the end of your pole tip, follow it down, then hold that pole. So I've got my pole tip just under the water a couple of inches, just to help presentation today, because it is absolutely bombing through left to right. I'm probably on the other side of the lake. I would probably say, oh, it's not guaranteed, but the tow could be going the opposite way. And I've been on matches before where you say to the guy opposite, oh, I've obviously spoke to a couple of guys and I've said, oh, the conditions have been rubbish. And they've said, oh no, on our side of the lake, it's been towing the opposite way. And I'm like, oh. And it honestly, it makes it a lot easier. It's quite a lot of bites now. It's just nice to fish this way sometimes, like positive. Get down through, get down to the bottom. Still throwing a few 4 mils down my peg on that other line. I bet that's good quality fish, that. Just missed a couple of bites then. My aim today really is to use the big pot to try and force, you know, trying not to get anything to come off the bottom, because trying to catch them off the bottom today with that tow going that way will be really hard. So I'm trying to sort of force the fish down on the deck, positive rig, holding it against that sort of that flow or tow. Oh, there's some fish there now. I bet they're decent fish as well then. Might have to put a tad more line on the bottom. It's what I'm thinking about while I'm fishing, is like, do I put a little bit more line on? I can't really look at the camera at the moment because it's raining. I've got my waterproof hood up. I said I fed probably a quarter of a pot of maggots and I had a real quick response. And it might be one of those days, and you'll find that with the tow going the same way as the wind. Sometimes you've got to be very positive with the baits that you're fishing with. Oh, that was a good fish. Bump that, see, because it's tight, because everything's tight. They are a lot harder to catch. But that grand float's sitting there just right, to be honest. If I had a 4B14 on, there we go. Nice skimmer. I've had a couple, the bigger skimmers I've had, I've had to use the disgorger on them, which tells me I'm probably, you know, I am fishing a little bit of line on the bottom. And that short free as well, it's quite nice. I do, them short frees definitely come in on their own on venues where you've got a slope. You know, it's literally the same depth as the top kit. And that's when them short frees can be really important, especially when you're swinging at odd fish as well. So I've just dropped that in. tip under the water a couple of inches. It's good, enjoyable fishing this in like tough conditions. There we go. I think that's a perch. Good sized fish though. You swing them, see, on the 11 jawyer. Some of the matches I fished before, I've been to like festivals and stuff, and I've swung fish like that, and you don't think you've caught a lot, and actually when you weigh in, you've got a huge weight of silvers. So you see me just drop that bulk like that. I've tried different ways. It's better to just drop it straight down the plug hole and then hold it like that. And it's not going to be long before I feed again. Oh, hello. That's a nice skimmer, I think. So one section off of that short free. It's lovely fishing, lovely and positive. It's a sort of rig you would probably associate with like fishing for in a natural venue when you're bagging on skimmers, but it does come into its own on these sort of conditions, even on commercials. Not very often, admittedly, but you've got to be prepared for it. That red and white's working nice. That's 16 SFL. It's a lovely hook for this, especially when you're fishing with 011, because you can get the odd carp out, the odd big F1. Not actually hooked a big fish at the moment. We're just on 2 little stockies and then skimmers and roach and stuff. It's nice. There's not many roach though. Not at the moment, but I'm not bothered about that. Like I said, my aim today is to catch good quality skimmers. It might be a little bit coloured for the roach, the water. It can be quite funny roach. It'd be so easy with the toe going the opposite way, but you know, that's why we come out and I didn't actually sit here and like, because the toe was going the same way as the wind. It was just one of them things. I wanted to fish in slightly deeper water, and then obviously I plumbed up, dropped the rig in, hoping the toe was going the same way, and no, it wasn't. So straight away I'm like, I know I probably got to have a positive rig set up. Just feels like I know, just sat there for that little while, and you think, oh, look at that. Oh, perch. I'm going to feed again now. Still little weight builders though. They're not tiny fish, which is nice. We'll just put another bit in. This is where you can get, like I said, you can go through quite a bit of bait. I had a feeling you could probably feed, but don't just shovel it in straight away. I'll put another little ball of micros in and 1/4 pot of maggots. Used to do a lot of the fishing years ago like that, potting maggots in. Big pots of maggots. Willow Park was one of them where I used to go. It was amazing that you could actually, even in the depth of winter, you could be there loose feeding a few maggots, and the fishing was quite difficult. And then you just think, well, I've got nothing to lose here. You put like 3/4 of a pot of live maggots in, leave it, go out there and catch these great big skimmers and big roach, and they just, it was proper weird, like fish, and it was like really icy cold. And yeah, I used to catch loads of fish on it. The most sort of frustrating part about big potting maggots like that is trying to sort out when to top up again. I mean, this time of year you can get away with it, but in the winter time, it's not so easy. I think it's sort of hit and miss, really. Sometimes, like, before you top up, just come off of it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go somewhere else, and then go back on it. And if they're not there then sort of give it another half a pot, because you've put quite a lot of maggots in, and sometimes you go straight on it after like 10 minutes of leaving it, and it goes straight under, you catch these quality fish. And then it's hard, like I said, it's hard to read when you top up again, because you think, oh, that was a lot of maggots out, and I've only caught like 3 quality fish. So you're better off leaving it in the winter. It's not so bad this time of year. I think you can get, like I said, you can get away with it. And you can do this anywhere in your peg. I'm doing it short today because of the conditions, but there's no harm at all in doing it long. There we go, straight on that. Oi, up. Dolphin. He's not happy about the situation. Imagine when you're fishing down the edge sometimes, you're fishing for carp and these things move in, they can polish a lot of bait off very, very quickly. I mean, that was straight, literally a minute, maybe a minute or two after topping up with that, just under half a pot of maggots. So I'm going to stick to that red and white. Just top and tail the maggots. But the art of all this sort of fishing is get your bulk off the end of that pole tip. The worst scenario is you drop it inside of your pole tip. If anything, try and drop it either directly off your pole tip or slightly past, not inside of it. Obviously the float's sat on a slight angle. It's like actually fishing a river really, with a downstream wind, which is always the most awkward way of fishing a river. Same sort of principle really, apart from I'm just holding it dead still. There you go. Beautiful that. Feels like a nice big skimmer that. Yes, like the other one that, £1.5. You can see I've just put a little bit of extra line on. I'll probably have to use a discorder on this one now. Yeah, only gesto, probably 1.5 to 2 inches in his gob. Just to get a bit more presentation. Don't get better, does it, than that? Horrible conditions, but the fishing is absolutely brilliant. And there's no better bait for me than maggots. Obviously I do love my worm fishing and caster fishing, but I think the story of the day at the moment is being quite aggressive with bait, with the big pot, which I love doing. So just drop that in, got my little marker opposite. And they're on it pretty quick when they're in your peg. Oh yes. Little skimmer. Look at that. No, lovely fishing.
Hi guys, sorry to interrupt this video. It's just a reminder to make sure you like the video, subscribe to Preston Innovations YouTube channel, and make sure you hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss another upload.
So important. I can't stress enough how important it is to get that bulk down like that. Just sort of fold your line over, and it's fishing so quick. I'm not letting it fall through the water or anything like that. This is about getting down right where you're putting that bait in. It's just coming at me a bit there. There you go. Oh, lovely. Oh, that's a... I said just after feeding again. That proper nod of it's had that. Let's chuck a few 4mm in. Ooh, come back. Lovely that. Nice big sort of thud when I look at that. You know it's in the mouth. I think it's a carp. carp, that. Oh, lovely. Look at that. I love them size fish on this sort of gear. What, like 3.5 to 4 pound, that. A little stocky, if you like. Let's hold him up if he behaves himself. Whoa, baby. Lovely to catch a little carp like that on that sort of gear and in these conditions. Just holding it nice and still over that, topping up. Great fishing. Well, as you can probably tell, the conditions have got pretty nasty at the minute. That's pretty shocking. But I'm still catching. The hardest part about it is that wind is sort of a bit in my face, and if I put my pole tip over top my float now, you'll see it's sort of just away from, I'm just leaning out a little bit. There you go, look at that. Just had another 2 pound skimmer, and just at this. I think that's another F1. So we've had like, this will be the third F1, so it's lovely really, not catching too many of these. But we're still catching these in like tough conditions, so you know your presentation's nice. Unlike the weather, it's pretty pants. But we need it. We've had a real hot summer again with not a lot of rain. Whoa! Proper fired up this one. Don't know what that seagull's doing, but it's making a right row. Come on. Oh, yes. That's a nice chunky F1. Bites are really, real quick. Was on double red, that one. I just put double red on the last couple of chucks just to try it. Come on, wind, give me a break. So if it goes to normal, what's been happening today, I'll get an F1. Oh. Getting nasty now. Just get my tip down under the water a little bit more. That's it. That's another eel, I reckon. No, it's not. Thought that was an eel where that was not in. This is a nice, nice skimmer. I'm thinking about now, do I top up again or should I just go back in? Because I've had an F1, a skimmer, 2 quality fish. I think I'll just go back in and have another look. Probably the wrong decision, but you just got to be aware, and sometimes they will settle. You know, you might not have to top up so aggressively and so regularly, but today it's definitely got to be quite aggressive. Otherwise you're just completely wasting your time. Yeah, that was a little fish bite, that. I think if I loose fed, I think I'd get absolutely hammered by a lot of small fish. Honestly, some of them bites there, I don't know if you can pick them up on the camera. Like really, I mean, I'm not quite sure, they're absolutely tiny, tiny fish. They don't even touch your bait. but I've not caught any. Yeah, righto, Des. Tiny fish. Not likely. I'm definitely going to feed a bit more bait after this fish. Lovely when you first get that nod when you hook them. And then, you know, obviously I think I've only fouled up 2 fish today, which is brilliant in these conditions. Sort of thing you've got to go and practice, like dropping your rig in, holding that. I see a lot of people from doing, I remember doing some coaching with the kids, the talent pathway, which is still going, and a lot of the guys, I used to say to them, make sure you're sat on your platform or on the, oh, that's a carp actually, and make sure your pole's straight, because if you go fishing on a day like today and you're on an angle like that and it's towing this like left to right and you're sat with your pole slightly to your left, you will not get the right presentation. And that's what this film I think's about. Even though we're only fishing short today, it's the same principle. It's absolutely massive. I've made the odd mistake sometimes, and you know, you learn by your mistakes, and that's what we do with these films. You pass that on to you. It's a lovely carpo. Look at it where he's hooked, double maggot right on his top lip. Lovely size fish to catch on this gear. Not too big. So that's the 3rd or 4th little carp we've had. 2 of those that size, a couple of bits smaller. Really brilliant. Just building up a really, really nice net of fish. That was on double red again, so we'll stick with that. Oh, I'm going to put some more bait in, won't I? Get a bit carried away. So just a few micros. I think what I'm doing is just brilliant. Like I said, nice, quite a lot of maggots. Got me hoodie tray up today, thank God. There'll be a few maggots crawling about otherwise. Just get yourself marked up, concentrate on that. Just let that come out. You see a little bit of white maize coming off me maggots, but don't worry about that too much. Straight back in. And it's, like I said, it's just one of them days where I think you've got to be concentrating on what I'm doing. I'm actually really enjoying it. I love, like I said, I love this style of fishing. With a nice rig like that. Old school you could call it, I suppose, but just let that. And if you drop your tip in the water, look at that, straight in. Oh, big perch had to go on the wicket that time. So you just don't know what you're going to hook next, which is a great way of fishing. And there's certain venues you go to which is about this style of fishing. You know, don't take it for granted. Like a lot of some of the venues I go, you are fishing for everything, not just carp and F1s. You're fishing for everything that swims to build your weight up. That float's sitting absolutely lovely like that. Look at that, lovely. Small skimmer, I think. Yeah, nothing wrong with them. Straight on that bait. Lovely. Absolutely beautiful fishing. Oh, it don't get better. If I could fish a match doing this every day, I'd be a very happy man. I live for this sort of fishing. And that 11 Jura, you know, it is like I'd love to fish a bit lighter, but obviously with the odd carp and odd F1, you've got to allow for that. Get that straight down. Oh, that was a perch, I think. Just check your bait. Just drop that bulk. If you're not great at dropping your bulk in, like drop it downwind, bring the bulk up where you're feeding, and drop it like that. Because it's not easy with that wind. You could actually come back tomorrow and do another video on the tow going the opposite way, and it would actually be a lot different. Oh, a little liner then, come on. Just drop that tip down a bit, otherwise that float stands up a little bit. Look at that, come on. Oh, how'd you miss that? I don't know if Jamie's getting that on camera, but you can just drop that tip down, because it is absolutely belting through now. So I can use the pole tip down in the lake to just get that float dotted down as I want it. And obviously if you get your float dotted down, the wind don't get it so much, and you get better presentation. The nice thing is the waves ain't too big. It's flipping windy, admittedly, but yeah, look at that, look. The difference, I mean, that might just been, ooh, that's a big fish. That's a unit, I think, the way that's. More sections required, I think, in a minute, unless I can fool him like that. Just dropping that bulk in different ways, and I always do that when I'm fishing in these conditions, in any other conditions, is drop it in slightly different. Not easy to show on film, admittedly, but I've been dropping the bulk sort of downwind a little bit, just sort of above my bait, and then I'll flick that rig out, or flick the bulk out slightly, loop the line over like that, so the float sort of went straight down. And that literally touched bottom, and always amazes me in like tough conditions how fast they can have the hook bait. That's a nice fish, that. Cod in the common. No problem on 011, that one. Yes. Nice fish. Not going to put him in the net. That one can go straight back. Probably £7. Try and hold him up. So you behave yourself. They haven't been too bad today. Ooh, although this one might be not having none of it. A nice fish to catch on that rig, isn't it? On a day like today. Awesome. On my feed. A bit of bait again, because that's what I'm feeling. Caught a couple of skimmers. Get that, make sure I get that dead right. I'm always very accurate when it's like that. When it's towing, I try and get my something opposite, and when I'm settled with that tow, I try and use little pointers where I'm dropping my rig in, where I'm putting my bait in. Yeah, look at that. That's definitely better, that. So drop the bolt just past the pole tip, loop that round, and then hold it. It feels like it's coming in at me like that, just slightly. So people say to me, why do you think that is, Des? I don't know. I can't tell you why and what difference. All I can tell you is it creates more fish in the net, which is, you know, ultimately what you need to do. Like that, to bite that. So it's like that. So it's like the bulk is just out from our fed. You hold it and that bulk is just drifting, or the bait is drifting in from out there. Look at that. It's quick. It's a perch. It doesn't matter. Oh, might come off admittedly, but oh no. Don't want that. See, even I do get tangles. More than you can imagine some days. This is where it gets nasty with the wind. It can go from being not such a nasty tangle to a disaster very quickly. Yeah, so I'll show you, whilst Jamie's doing some filming, I'll show you what I think's better today, because that's what is the important part of these films as well, is rig presentation. And what I was doing before, or just a minute ago, I've tried a couple of things, is dropping the bulk down there, bringing it up slightly, and then letting the float go like that, so then it's like on me bait. Similar presentation. Feels like a nice skimmer, that. Oh yes. Well, what a great fish to finish this little film off. It's been an absolute mint day. I can always say I'm double red maggot. I must admit, I put double red on. It's been really, really good. But that's been the stamp of the fish we've had today. We've obviously had some carp, a few F1s, plenty of skimmers, no roach, and a few perch. Let's get him back and just talk about the day. And a bit like with the conditions, like I said in the intro, it's really interesting that I guarantee on that side of the lake today, I might be wrong, but I would say that the tow is going with against the wind, which would make fishing a lot easier, believe me. But fishing with a nice positive like I have today, like a 1 gram power, it's been brilliant, because it is like tough conditions and big potting maggots. I've gone through, I reckon we've been fishing for like 3.5 hours, I reckon, something like that. I'm not too sure. We've gone through like 2.5 pints of maggots, maybe, you know, maximum, with just an odd little nugget of micros. And I'll show you the fish in a minute, obviously, when we finished. But what a fantastic day, and like fishing a little bit more line, probably half a float length over depth. So obviously I normally plumb up to there. If I plumbed up now, I'd be about there, which I think half a float length when the conditions like they are. It's actually sort of changed throughout the day a little bit. The wind sort of come in our face a little bit, so I've had to reach out on the pole a little bit like that. The most important thing today is how you've dropped your bulk in. So I've dropped my bulk in a little bit past my pole tip, like probably something like that far past. Loop the line round, the float catches everything up. I've not let the float do this. It's not following the bulk. It's literally drop it in and it's like that, wallop. It's fishing really quickly. And I think that's the most important part, is when it's towing through like that. You don't want to be messing around watching your float going in. I've not even bothered the pellet line. I think the concentration on that maggot line today is feeding and fishing it. Actually messing around too much today, you know, potting in here, potting in there, resting it, it hasn't been the right thing to do. It's been about big potting them maggots, a little bit of micro in, going straight over the top, concentrating and making the most of that pot of maggot, or half a pot of maggots. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had, you know, the weather's been horrific, but who cares? When the fishing is as good as what it's been today, I'm not bothered. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the film. I've had a great day's fishing. We're going to pack up now and dry out. And don't forget to like and subscribe on the Preston YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.